In this video, I'm going to go through 5 suburbs that you should be looking at if you're a property investor wondering where on earth should I buy right now. These suburbs are not hotspots. They are not areas where everyone is looking. They are uncovered gems that we're looking at right now. Warm spots that were on our list of the top 25 suburbs in Australia that you should have on your radar. We're going to go through the data on them specifically. Let's go. So I'm going to start with Lyons in Northern Territory. Yes, up until about 3 or 4 weeks ago when we first began this process, uncovering everything up, I'd never heard of this place. I've never been there. I'd never heard of it. And I'm like, looking at a map of this, being like, this area happens to be a location that's gonna do well. Anyone watching this channel is thinking, Reedham's gone nuts. What is he saying right now? And where did I come up with this random location all the way up, pretty much the highest point of Northern Territory? That might be pushing it, but the highest point of Darwin. We're looking at one of the more affluent areas of Darwin, actually. We're looking at an area that, according to the data on my screen right now, isn't actually doing all that well. We have house prices falling by 8% in the last year, rents going up by 3.5%, and the yield up at 5.78%. The yield going up because house prices coming down. So the data isn't saying that it's doing really well at the moment. And I did start this by saying these are uncovered gems, not the hotspots where prices are just going up 30% and you're paying huge inflation and fighting over each other for it, but areas that I think will be on the list in a year or two. So prices not rising at the moment. There's some metrics here in the data, but what we have here is it's situated approximately 16 kilometers north of Darwin CBD. Now, Darwin's a little bit different to Sydney and Melbourne. You're listening to this being like, 16 kilometers north, is that close? Is that far? Sounds pretty far. To be honest, I don't think it matters how far away you are from Darwin CBD. It's a different economy there. It's a much smaller economy. Everyone's driving. You don't need to be so close to the CBD itself. The CBD itself is different to other capitals here. It's not like Sydney CBD, not a hub spot of jobs where everyone's living in. Okay, so what else have we got here? We have the typical price at around $775,000. Yes, our research suggests this is correct. It's an area where there's a lot of fairly new-ish homes. So you're looking at a community type area where families want to live. One of the things that I like about this area is Darwin is a transient city. There's people that go in for work and then go back out and leave. They don't stay there forever. And if you're a young family and you go to live in Darwin, you're like, where am I going to live? You want to pick something that has some level of safety attached to it, which would probably be a concern if you've got young children. You want to be living in an area where there's a sense of community and newish type dwelling. So I'm looking for my safest bet in Darwin, and Lyons pops up as an area. And the suburbs around it as well. There's a couple of suburbs in and around Lyons that also have Moorhead. Apologies if I've said that wrong. I don't know if anyone watching this will be able to pick up the right pronunciation. Any Darwinites seeing this, feel free to drop a comment below and educate me a little bit more on Lyons and Moorhead and the other locations in around here, and tell me what I don't know and what the data doesn't tell me. Put it in the comments below. I think people will want to know. Rents are up around $860 a week. Rents are really high here, and the yield is pretty strong, pretty lucrative when you can get 6% yields. The investments that we've been looking at in there is a little bit above 6%, and the price point around $775,000. It's got an IRSAD score. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that incorrect. An IRSAD score of 1012. It's relatively affluent, which is what we'd see in here. The renter to owner-occupier proportion is 61%. So there is a really high percentage of renters. But this is the case in Darwin. In Darwin, you have to change this notion. It is a rental city. It is a city with a bit more volatility. It is a city dominated by investors. It's just the nature of Darwin. You'll see that there. It's very affordable. There's a lot of houses there. Building approval is very low. times are 7.58 years, pretty strong, and days on market, vacancy rates very, very low. So there is some very strong positive factors with some negative factors there as well. So that's what the data suggests here in Lyons. And one thing that I'm going to add to it is one way I've worked out that Lyons is doing really, really well is by doing a real quick search of Lyons on realestate.com. And what you quickly find is when you do a search of Lyons, you find that Lyons, Northern Territory, realestate.com, do a quick search, you find that everything is under offer. We've already done this little search thing once on our previous video, but you can see more than half the homes as you scroll down are under offer. Makes a lot of sense that it should be having positive data signs when half the homes that go up for sale very, very quickly go under offer. The data has not shown it yet. It has not caught up to what is happening on the ground. Now, local research insights, the phone calls that we've placed have said that if you want to move to Darwin and you run a young family, this is one of the areas you want to look at. It's a little bit more premium, a little bit safer. Probably will hold up to the owner-occupier type demand as well, even though it's dominated by renters, but it's a location where people want to live. Let's look at microburbs for a little bit of an understanding of whether it's a good place to live or not. It's got a family score of 8 out of 10. That's pretty good. An affluence score of 9 out of 10. That's very, very good. Look at the average income, $1,235 per week. Wow. You know, that's crazy. I can compare this to Sydney's inner east, you know, where all the ballers, all the really high income people, you know, the Luke's Listings people, that TV show, you know, where all they live. This area in Darwin has higher incomes than over here. That's nuts. You would not have expected that, but it's the truth. That's what the data suggests. It's very, very good affordability, really high incomes, pretty low mortgage repayments, good quality homes that you can get at fairly low prices. So there's a lot going for it. And community score, 10 out of 10. I'm starting to wonder if I've got the wrong metric here. Am I picking the right suburb? This is so good. Community score, 10 out of 10. Tranquility score, 9 out of 10. Communication score, 9 out of 10. You'd think that all of Australia has a really good communication score. Convenience, 8 out of 10. Lifestyle, 8 out of 10. Affluence, 9 out of 10. Family, 8 out of 10. So a lot of really, really positive factors here in Lyons and the surrounds of Lyons as well. Okay, so that's location number one. If you want to take on a little bit more risk, have a lower price point, buy a really established home, you can go further south of Lyons in the suburbs, approaching it, like surrounding it, but not quite there, in areas like Wagaman. I'm probably saying that completely wrong, so forgive me. These areas have a very different type of profile, much riskier, higher crime rates, lower affluence. You have more opportunity to buy existing dwellings, much lower price point as well. You can save yourself a couple $100,000, be buying in a much riskier sort of area, but you'll see that these areas, if Lyons does well, these areas will do well too. If I'm investing from Sydney, I probably want something a little bit safer. I'm already going well and truly outside my comfort zone buying in Darwin in the first place. So I'm going to buy that nice established home that the family wants that will rent out easily, rather than the creaky one that looks a bit scary, that looks like a crocodile might jump in its pool. That is what it looks like on Real Estate Domain. So I'm like, do I really want this? I don't know too much. I better go over there, fly there to actually get to understand it a little bit better. Anyone watching this channel, watching this right now, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below. And if you're from Darwin, please accept my apologies if I'm saying some inappropriate things about these locations. I'm just trying to share what I know with everyone. And this is a 15,000 suburb deep dive, and we're coming up with these results. So Darwin's getting some attention from us. The next location we have here is another Darwin suburb. We've got Palmerston in Northern Territory. This is going out the other way. It's a little bit of a while away from Darwin, a bit of a drive, but people in Darwin drive, so I don't think that's that much of a deal. It's a cheaper area, but has locations of new homes available. And this is the secret to Palmerston. The big buyers agents, the really big ones, they are there, snapping properties up. Anything that meets certain metrics, I'll buy it, I'll buy it, I'll buy it. And if one of them is there, it's only a matter of time before the rest of them go there being like, ooh, the data looks good. I'm going to start selling this to my investors. Once one comes, Darwin only has about 1,200 properties on sale at a particular point in time. And if one of these buyers agents that buys 50 properties a month goes and buys up for a month or two, that 1,200 quickly turns into 1,000. And then there's a giant housing shortage and house prices start flying. That could happen. And one of the buyers agents is already here that we can see, that we've heard from. So there's some activity popping up in Palmerston at the moment. It's a high yield area. You can buy for under $600,000 here. Its price growth is starting to go up. One thing that we uncovered as well is the bottom quartile prices in Darwin have shot up in the last 90 days, up 2.4%, while the top quartile is down 2.7%. So Darwin prices are actually moving backwards, where the buyers agents aren't buying, but where they are buying, the prices are moving upwards. Bottom quartile stuff, the affordable stuff, that's the investor product that people are buying. Yield 5%, pretty strong here. Found a few different options here that suggest a lot of good options. So it's lower socioeconomic, I guess, but it's still pretty strong. Income's pretty high in Palmerston. There's no stock on market. Vacancy rates are really low. There's no inventory. There's demand coming in. It's got all the market pressure signals that you'd start seeing that's bubbling up in the data sense. So there's a lot going for it. And an affordable price point with a high yield. So everything that an investor wants, Palmerston is ticking the boxes, other than it's in Northern Territory, it's in Darwin. I fear crocodiles. Other than that, if you can get past that bit, if you can get past buying in Darwin, that's a bit scary. It is a little bit scary. It hasn't risen a lot in 10 years. Its prices are lower today than 10 years ago. Get past all of that. The data itself, if you really believe, I just follow the data, it is a fact. I have no emotional opinions. If you have that mindset, then the data tells you that Palmerston is pretty freaking good. It's got a lot going for it, and I see why buyers agents are buying there now. I'm looking at this. Oh, have I got this right? Yes, the affluence score in Palmerston isn't particularly good. Oh, it's very low. It's 2 out of 10. Wow, that isn't what I expected. There's no public housing. Incomes are $950 per week, which is low for Darwin, but pretty strong overall. So there's a little bit of data here. Tranquility score is quite high. So there's a little bit of information here, but it is a cheaper area of Darwin. It's just got new homes there that you can buy, which gets the family-centric component that you're looking for. So those are the 2 Darwin picks, or the 3 Darwin picks, if you want to include Wagaman into it. So there's a few areas of Darwin to start your research if you want to look at suburbs as to where should I be looking in Darwin. These are a few suburbs to look at. Palmerston's the one that I think the buyers agents are buying in. The northern suburbs of Darwin are what my local expert contacts have told me as areas that you might want to be paying attention to. And some of those areas include Lyons and Moorehead. If you have a little bit of a higher budget, those are areas to look at. And if you have a lower budget, then you can go a bit further south, take on a little bit of risk, but it'll be more established homes. And they should move up together as well, because the investment demand will move around depending on the price level there. Okay, let's flip over to something far safer. Much easier to fathom. I'm in Carrum Downs in Victoria. This is the southeast pocket of Victoria. You're going out near Frankston. This ain't particularly close to the city, but there's some solid data starting to appear here. So we're in Melbourne. Prices are rising in Carrum Downs, about 2.5% up. Rents up 8.5%. So it is fairly attractive in this sense. And HTAG, the data source, really likes Melbourne and quite likes Carrum Downs here as well in terms of its scorecard index. It's got its own scorecard as to what it thinks its capital growth position will be, mixing in cash flow and capital growth. It's got 91 here. Wow, it ranks it really highly. 36 kilometres southeast of Melbourne CBD, price point $735,000. Rent at $537, yield at 3.8%. Not that pretty. This yield ain't that nice. You're going to be experiencing some cash flow losses buying here. So not really a cash flow investment at the moment. Affordability raises some eyebrows at the moment, but everything is unaffordable at the moment, and it could get a little bit better if interest rates do come down. You can see these areas doing pretty well. In terms of supply, stock on market, there is no stock on market. There's nothing for sale there at the moment, so that could cause some upward pressure. The hold period is 11 years, so people who buy in Carrum Downs, they don't sell out of Carrum Downs. They're like, I want to move here, I want to live here, I want to stay here. It's got a really low vacancy rate. It's got a lot going for it, actually. So when you look at the data into Carrum Downs, you're like, this is pretty good. So if you want to buy in Melbourne, you want to buy in early in the growth cycle, and you want to pick out which suburbs to look at, Carrum Downs should be pretty high on your list of areas to look at. So we are going to uncover a whole range of Melbourne suburbs in this video and in other videos and in the top 25 suburb videos. You're going to hear us talk a lot about different types of Melbourne suburbs. Importantly, because we want to unpack exactly where you want to look now that we've deep dived into all the locations. So here the data is pretty positive. There's some upward trajectory in its potential price growth. Rents are going up a little bit. They are up 9% for the year, and house prices haven't risen that much, so the yield is rising. It's at a good point in its growth cycle, expected to be around the bottom at the moment, with pretty solid fundamentals. Now, it is a cheaper area. You probably notice this in all of these areas. It seems a little bit like Wolf of Wall Street, where we're picking all the penny stocks and we're picking all the cheapy areas and being like, if you really want to simplify it, like we're talking about areas that aren't the greatest. Like we're talking about pretty soft areas in terms of its location, its risk profiles, cheaper areas. But these are the areas where investors are going in. Investor money is buying into the cheaper areas. So that's why we're looking at these areas specifically. Investors aren't buying the $1 million plus properties of Melbourne at the moment. They're getting away from that and they're buying cheaper, more affordable properties. And that's why they're popping up really high on the radar here. Renter to owner-occupier proportions, very, very strong here. Stock on market really low, build approvals low, hold periods high, days on market fairly low, vacancy rates very, very low. Carrum Downs data is particularly positive. So there's a lot going for it. If I'm investing in Melbourne, I'm putting Carrum Downs into up there in my top 5 suburbs or locations that I'm looking at. Looking at some of the microburbs data here, I've got an affluence score of 4, which is kind of what I'd expect because it is a cheaper area of Melbourne. A lot of owner-occupiers there. A very low average income, $707. It's like close to half what the Darwin one was, but that's to be expected in Melbourne. Not many people own their homes outright, so it's experiencing the cash flow crunch, the cost of living crisis. This is battler territory. This is what I'm seeing at the moment. But overall, pretty nice area to live for a cheaper area of Melbourne. And there's a lot of Melbourneites who are operating at this budget. It is the most common budget that people are buying in. There'll be a lot of homes there. Carrum Downs would be a good place to look. Next up, we have Craigieburn in Melbourne as well. We're looking up north. This area has got a little bit of attention of recent times as well. You have prices growing as well, up 3%, while Melbourne down 2%, and you have rents up 12% as well. So again, the relative purchasing score that H-Tag gives is pretty high at 85.2, very low risk suburb, according to H-Tag as well. Situated 25 kilometers north of Melbourne CBD, typical price point around $687,000, rents for $500, yields around 3.8%. IRSAD score at 958, pretty favorable, I guess, not too bad. High renter owner occupier proportion, under 30% of renters there. Decent affordability, particularly as rates come down, and it's Melbourne. It's an affordable area of Melbourne. Any Melbourne home you're buying for under $700,000 is pretty attractive. So the data here is similar to Carrum Downs, fairly attractive and something to pay attention to as well. Carrum Downs and Craigieburn have very, very similar types of data, just opposite ends of Melbourne. One on the east, one on the north, both areas with similar sort of profiles, similar type of people who live there, similar budgets, similar price points, both areas to look at and suburbs to look at specifically. And finally, opportunity number 5 is another warm spot that we touched on in the 25 suburb video. It's not an actual suburb, it's a range of suburbs. I'm talking specifically about R3 properties in Sydney above a $2 million price point. Yes, you heard that right. I've been talking about buying really, really cheap properties throughout this video, but I've kept number 5 for the $2 million plus category, and ideally it's in the $3 or $4 million plus category, the wildly high price category that probably whoever's watching this video being like, huh? Why are you talking about this? I'm not buying this. No one's buying this stuff. But the reason why it's an opportunity is it's early December 2024. Planning changes are kicking in Sydney fairly soon, and the mid-rise housing code may kick in later this month or in 2025. And if it does kick in, these type of properties are the most likely to benefit. And you need to have high value areas because you need apartment prices to cost more than $750,000, $800,000 for any development to actually improve its land value from these changes. This is a unique potential opportunity as of today. And I've summed it all up. I've looked at all these planning changes, mapped it all across Sydney and seen, hey, what's actually going to benefit? And it's actually, most things don't. Even if with these changes kicking in, most things aren't going to benefit. But the things that do benefit, the land holdings that do, are the really expensive R3 zone sites. That's the area that's going to do the best from these changes. So those are the 5 opportunities that we've covered in this video. We've done a data deep dive. We've covered so much information about these areas to help you make better financial decisions. Now, if you could do me one big favor for all of this, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below if you want me to unpack other areas in a little bit more detail for you. We've got a list of 25 there, and I've picked 5 at random to go through and talk about. I really think these 5 locations are pretty good areas to invest in. And if I'm a property investor looking to make a property purchase somewhere between, $400,000 to $800,000, all 4 of these areas will be on my list. I'm not saying to buy here. Let's make that absolutely clear. I have no interest in you actually buying in any of these locations. This is something for you to just start your research on. It's me trying to simplify all of this research out there, all of this information out there, and give you some bite-sized bits of information to help you make better financial decisions and help you progress your financial journey. And if any of you need some help with your finances to help you achieve your financial dreams, if you're looking to buy an investment property, my name's Reedham Sayed. I'm the founder of Confidence Finance, a mortgage broking company that works with hundreds of property investors all across the country, helping them grow, build, and scale their property portfolios. If you'd like some help, jump in the description below and click on the link to book a meeting with our team to help you get started.